The screams came from the end of the hallway, loud, sharp, and desperate. Then came the gunshots. 3 of them. Fast. The lights flickered once, twice, and then went out completely. Agent Ryan Cole froze behind the metal door, gripping his weapon with trembling hands. The smell of gunpowder mixed with something worse, something metallic and warm. He tried not to breathe too loudly. His radio crackled softly in his ear. "Unit 5, report," a voice said. Ryan didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat was dry. He had just seen something no one would ever believe. He peeked around the corner. Agent Miller, his partner, was lying on the floor, his body twisted, his face pale. The wall behind him was splattered with blood. But that wasn't what made Ryan's stomach twist. It was the shadow standing over him. The shadow moved. Slowly. It wasn't human. Ryan ducked back behind the wall, holding his breath. Whatever it was had come out of nowhere. It moved too fast to be real. 1 second Miller had been clearing the room. The next, the lights went out, and Ryan closed his eyes, trying to push the memory away. But he couldn't. He could still see it in the faint glow from Miller's flashlight before it hit the ground. The shape of a man, wearing a black tactical uniform like theirs. But his face wasn't right. It looked melted. The skin sagged on one side, eyes black like burned glass. And he smiled. Then came the gunfire. Now, everything was silent. Ryan slowly pressed his hand to his earpiece. "Control," he whispered. "This is Agent Cole. We've got casualties. I repeat, we've." A soft sound cut him off. A footstep. Not his. Ryan turned his flashlight on, sweeping the narrow hallway. The beam caught the edge of a broken mirror, then a flicker of movement just past the corner. He pointed the gun. "Stop right there." Silence. He moved closer, every step careful, his breathing shallow. Then a voice came from the DAC, deep and distorted, almost human. "Why are you pointing that at me, Ryan?" Ryan froze. He knew that voice. It was Miller's. But Miller was dead. He took one more step forward. The light flickered again, and for a split second, he saw Miller standing at the other end of the hallway, perfectly still, head tilted to one side. His uniform was torn. His neck had a dark line around it. "Miller," Ryan whispered. The man smiled. "Late hour, Ryan," he said softly. "You shouldn't have come here." Ryan took a step back, shaking his head. No, that's not possible." The thing's smile widened, stretching too far. His eyes darkened completely. Then the radio on Ryan's shoulder crackled again, a voice cutting through static. "Cole, evacuate now. Repeat, do not engage the agent. He's compromised." Ryan's blood went cold. "What?" he whispered into the radio. "What do you mean, compromised?" The voice on the other end was panicked now. "That's not Miller, Cole. That's the horror agent. His back." Before Ryan could move, the figure at the end of the hall twitched, jerking unnaturally fast. In the blink of an eye, he was gone. The air grew heavy. Ryan turned slowly, raising his gun. And there he was, standing right behind him, his burnt face inches away. Ryan didn't even have time to scream. The lights flickered one last time, and the entire corridor went dark. Only the sound of a gunshot echoed through the building. Then silence. But when the backup team arrived 30 minutes later, they found something even worse. Every camera in the building had been wiped clean. All footage gone. Only one frame remained, frozen on every screen. A dark figure in tactical gear, staring directly at the lens, a faint, burned smile across his face. And in the bottom corner of the image, a timestamp glowed faintly red. 11:59 p.m. The late hour. The building was on lockdown when the cleanup team arrived. Thick fog rolled across the street outside as black vans lined the curb. Armed officers in gas masks flooded the lower levels, sweeping every corner of the abandoned federal office. The clock on the wall read 12:03 a.m., just minutes past midnight. Agent Sarah Keene stepped out of one of the vehicles, her boots echoing against the wet pavement. She was pale, calm, and too experienced to be afraid, or so she thought. She had been called in for containment, not investigation. But the moment she stepped into the lobby, something felt wrong. The air was cold, unnaturally cold. Every breath came out as fog. The overhead lights flickered once, then stayed dim. The walls looked darker, like the paint itself had absorbed the fear of what happened hours earlier. A soldier approached, rifle in hand. "Agent Keene," he said, voice muffled through his mask. "We found the first body. It's not pretty." "Show me," she said quietly. He led her down the long, narrow corridor. It smelled like burnt rubber and rust. The body of Agent Miller lay slumped near the security office door. His uniform was shredded in strange, curved lines, like claws, but there were no scorch marks, no bullet wounds. Sarah knelt beside him, studying his expression. His eyes were open wide, frozen in pure terror. But there was something worse, something written across the wall behind him. She leaned closer, the letters barely visible through the dark. He never left. "What does that mean?" she whispered. The soldier swallowed hard. "We don't know, but we found another one." He guided her toward the next room, the hallway where the last transmission came from. Her flashlight beam cut through the shadows, landing on an empty pistol, a radio still crackling, and a trail of footprints leading into the maintenance corridor. The prince stopped halfway, just vanished. "Where's Cole?" she asked. "Gone," the soldier replied. "No body. Just that." He pointed to the wall. Deep scratch marks ran down the concrete, 5 of them uneven and ragged, like someone had tried to dig through solid stone. Sarah's stomach twisted. "Lock down this floor. I want every exit sealed. No one in or out." The soldier hesitated. "If it's still in here, then we make sure it doesn't leave," she said, voice sharp. They set up motion sensors along the hallway. The faint beep of the devices echoed softly through the silence. Everything felt off. The building was too still. Sarah moved toward the end of the corridor, where a broken door hung off its hinges. Inside was an office with shattered glass and overturned furniture. The faint hum of power still ran through the emergency lights. Then she saw it, on the desk. A folder marked Agent R. Cole, field file. She flipped it open. The report inside was dated a month earlier. It described a failed containment mission in Chicago. 5 agents dead. Cause of death unknown. The last line made her heart skip. Subject identified as Agent Marcus Hale, presumed deceased, 2014. Reclassified as the horror agent. She froze. Marcus Hale, one of the agency's top operatives, had been presumed killed in an explosion years ago. His body was never recovered. Rumors said his team was experimenting with psychological warfare, testing exposure to classified chemicals. After the blast, he vanished, and the program was shut down. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she read the final note. Recovered footage shows Subject Hale attacking his own unit at 11:59 p.m. All victims deceased within 3 minutes. The same time. The same pattern. She turned toward the soldier. "This isn't a break-in. It's a repeat." Before he could respond, the lights went out. Every sensor along the hall went red at once, alarms shrieking through the corridor. The soldiers raised their weapons. The sound of static burst from their radios. Then a voice came through, distorted and low. "You shouldn't have come back, Sarah." Her blood ran cold. She turned slowly toward the end of the hall. Through the flashing emergency light, she saw a figure standing in the doorway, tall, still, in full tactical gear. His helmet was cracked, his face covered in black soot, eyes reflecting the red alarm light. He stepped forward. 1 step, then another. "Identify yourself," a soldier shouted. The figure didn't stop. 2 shots rang out. Both hit, but the man didn't fall. He tilted his head slightly, as if curious. The bullets had gone straight through him. And then he spoke again, his voice distorted like a broken radio. "You think you can contain what you made?" The soldiers opened fire, the hallway exploding with muzzle flashes. Sarah ducked behind a metal desk, her ears ringing. When the gunfire stopped, smoke filled the corridor. "Cease fire," she shouted. "Cease fire." The smoke cleared just enough for her to see the floor, bullet casings everywhere. No body. The figure was gone. Then, from the far end of the hallway, came the faint sound of a metal door creaking open. A light flickered deep inside the maintenance tunnel. Sarah turned toward her team. "He's still here," she said. A single voice came through her earpiece, faint, crackling through interference. "It's too late, Agent Keene. It's already the late hour." The sound cut out, and then came the scream from below. The scream echoed through the lower levels, bouncing off the concrete walls until it sounded like a dozen voices crying out at once. Agent Sarah Keene's heart pounded. She and the soldiers rushed down the stairwell, the sound of their boots clanging like thunder. The hallway below was flooded with red emergency lights that blinked in and out, painting everything in flashes of crimson and shadow. They reached the maintenance floor, a long, narrow corridor lined with pipes, flickering bulbs, and puddles of dark water that shimmered under their flashlights. "Stay sharp," Sarah ordered, her weapon raised. Whatever's down here, it's not human anymore. A soldier ahead of her knelt beside a dark stain on the floor. It looked wet. He touched it with his glove, then froze. He whispered. It's blood, but it's warm. Sarah's stomach twisted. That meant the screaming had come from someone still alive. Until recently. They kept moving. The air grew colder with every step. The smell of burnt metal and something rotten filled the space. Sarah's flashlight beam caught something on the wall, smeared letters drawn with a trembling hand. He doesn't die. Her throat tightened. He's playing with us, she murmured. The soldier beside her shook his head. Then why does it feel like he's hunting us? Before she could answer, their radios hissed, static bursting through the silence. Then a familiar voice came through. Sarah. It was Ryan Cole. Ryan, she said quickly. Cole, where are you? Are you alive? There was a pause. Then, softly, he won't let me leave. He's here. Her blood went cold. Stay where you are. We're coming. They moved fast, turning corners, sweeping each room. The deeper they went, the darker it became. The last door at the end of the hall stood slightly open, a faint light flickering inside. Sarah motioned for her team to hold position. She pushed the door open slowly, gun raised. The room was filled with monitors, dozens of screens showing different camera angles from the building, hallways, stairwells, offices. But all of them were glitching, static crawling across the images. On one of the screens, Sarah saw herself, standing right there, looking at the monitor. Only in the reflection, something stood behind her. She spun around instantly. Nothing. Then she turned back toward the screen. The shadow was still there, closer now, standing right behind her reflection. One of the soldiers asked. What is it? Before she could answer, all the monitors went black. The low hum of electricity faded into silence. Then one screen flickered back on. It showed a live feed from the hallway outside. The soldiers standing guard were on the floor, their rifles scattered, their bodies motionless. The red lights flashed over them like a heartbeat. And standing over them was him, the horror agent, Marcus Hale. His uniform was scorched and torn, his face a mix of burned flesh and shadow. His head tilted slowly as he looked directly into the camera. Then the lights in the control room flickered. One of the soldiers whispered, "He knows where we are." The door slammed shut behind them. The sound of boots approached from the hallway, steady, deliberate, echoing. Sarah aimed her weapon at the door. "Everyone stay ready. Do not fire until I give the order." The sound stopped right outside. Silence. Then the voice came again, deep and broken. "You made me. You left me. Now it's your turn." The door burst inward, metal twisting like paper. The soldiers opened fire, bullets ricocheting off the walls. Sparks filled the air. Sarah ducked behind the desk, pulling the pin from a flash grenade. She tossed it across the floor. Boom. The blast filled the room with white light and a deafening ring. When the smoke cleared, the figure was gone. But on the far wall, words had been burned into the metal surface, black and smoldering. The latehour never ends. Sarah staggered to her feet, coughing through the smoke. "Everyone, fall back. Now." They pushed into the stairwell, but halfway up, the emergency lights went out again, every floor plunging into total darkness. Then, from below, came the rhythmic sound of boots climbing. Step, step, step. Keep moving. Sarah shouted. Her team rushed up, their flashlights shaking. The sound of the steps grew louder, closer, but when she turned her light downward, the stairwell was empty. And yet, the sound was still there. Step, step, step. They reached the exit door at the top floor. Sarah pushed it open and stopped dead. They weren't in the building anymore. The door opened into another hallway, the same one from the lower floor. Same broken lights, same stains on the walls. They hadn't moved at all. One of the soldiers began to panic. "This isn't possible." "We went up." Sarah turned to calm him and froze. The soldier's face was pale. His eyes had turned completely black. Before she could react, he lifted his weapon and fired. The bullet hit the wall inches from her head. The others screamed, wrestling him to the ground, but he fought with unnatural strength. Through the chaos, Sarah heard a voice whisper, this time inside her head. "He's already inside. He never left the building." The possessed soldier suddenly went still, eyes wide open, staring upward. His lips moved, but the voice that came out wasn't his. "You brought me here, Sarah." And then every light in the hallway turned red. From all directions, the sound of boots echoed again, dozens of them. Shadows moved on the walls, stretching, twisting, growing taller. One by one, the soldiers disappeared into the darkness, their screams cut off too quickly. Sarah was the last one standing. Her flashlight flickered. The red lights pulsed like a heartbeat. Then she heard breathing behind her. She turned slowly. Marcus Hale, the horror agent, stood inches from her face, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "Why me?" she whispered. He smiled, a burnt, uneven grin. "Because it's the late hour, Sarah. And everyone dies in the late hour." He reached out a hand, placing his palm against her chest. The lights flickered, her vision blurred, and her body went cold. When the building reopened the next morning, there were no survivors. No gunfire, no struggle, just a row of empty rifles lined neatly against the wall. And on the central monitor in the security room, a single video played on loop. A timestamp, 11:59 p.m. A dark figure standing among shadows, and a voice whispering, almost gently, "The late hour begins again."